Back in 2007, we were looking for a program for our historical society, and Burgess is a fine venue to have it. There's plenty of room, there's plenty of parking, people can get here. And I heard that there was a video available of the Nipmuck People, and I thought this would be an interesting program. I was very happy and pleased to see on the video disc of Hiding in Plain Sight my good friend Kenny White. We grew up together, and that's where I didn't realize that Kenny was Indian. I guess when we first talked about having the video was to learn something, to learn about the Native American culture, the Nipmuck culture. We didn't know about it, and the people that came to the meeting that night, they didn't know anything about it either.
I wanted to be here to see how people reacted to it. It's my hometown. I was curious on how the people would react to it, because most Sturbridge residents know my family.
But maybe more importantly, we didn't realize you were Indians. You had an Indian heritage.
Mm-hmm. What I had hoped, I guess, is to inform the people that we were natives living in a community and that we're still here, and that my brother was dubbed as a menace to society, but there was a reason for that. And he really didn't get the help that he should have gotten. He was sent to a reform school till he was old enough to go into service, and they made him go into the service. And I'm not going to go all through that again, but I just want people to know he was, he was a good man.
I was very pleased that the audience's participation, the intensity in which they viewed the video disc itself, they were learning something, as we all did, as I did. And as we get older, I find we have more of an interest in our own genealogy. I knew that I was also part French, and that my grandparents had come down from Canada, and so I guess that was my reaction. And I see this in one of my sons. I'll tell him some of these things, and he'll say, "So?" And one day, like, who cares? And I think this may have been the same thing with the Nipmuck in the area. It was on the part of the white people, the Caucasians, saying, "So?" There was no interest. But I think now, more and more, we're finding people more interested in other people, in their heritage, and the ethnic values that they have. There's a change that I think Ken and I have gotten closer since that film, because now on occasion something will come up, somebody will ask about, we're talking about burial site. I had learned about an Indian burial site in Woodstock, Connecticut, and Ken and I talked about it, and I asked if he would like to see it, and Ken said, "I would really like to go down and see it," and I wanted to be sure what the information I had was factual, that it was in fact an Indian burial site. And we looked at it, and I learned something about my friend. I learned he can be emotional, because somebody had gone in to cut trees for lumbering, and they had actually driven tractors over the tops of the graves. And Kenny said at the time, "This is not good. I have a very bad feeling about this, a feeling within myself about it." And he says, "We need to do a ceremony here to cleanse the area and to ask Manitou for forgiveness."
If he hadn't told my son and myself about this site, it would still have been desecrated. I want to thank Bob for that, because some of those graves, like Bob said, were drove over by logging trucks, and they were pulled apart. Some were even, they'd pull the stones out looking for things. And that's what happens when people who don't care and it looks like a burial site. They've probably heard that Indians were buried with belongings, or they're going to find artifacts there, so they got to start digging the graves apart. This is what concerns me. I commend Bob on bringing David and myself down there. We cleaned up the graves, and We did a ceremony, and it was a very good ceremony, and Dave did an honoring song, and we felt a lot better after that, and hoping that the Creator gave forgiveness for what was done, and to let those persons buried there rest in peace, because you could tell that they weren't resting in peace. They were disturbed, and when we left there, I think we all had a good feeling about it.
I learned a lot about my neighbor, my childhood friend Ken White. I learned a lot about his family that I didn't realize. I know in the video he talks about his brother quite a bit, and I know it was hard for Ken to discuss his brother because there was a love there. Growing up as neighbors to the Whites, we didn't realize. We other kids didn't realize. And I think I may have been one of those that picked on his brother even from time to time, and I look back on it and I say, dumb. There was no reason to do that. But we didn't realize that Paul was driven in some ways by the fact of his heritage and the fact that he was picked on by other people. We didn't realize these things. I knew him in his days when he wasn't looked up to. He was looked down upon. Some of it was his behavior. And then I met a different Paul White later in life. And I remarked to my wife, what a difference in Paul. And I didn't realize then why there was such a difference. But he turned his life completely around. And he was really a gentle person. And I can see why he carried the name Gentle Moose. So I think bringing the culture out certainly must have helped him. Oh, Lordy, that's 70 years ago. Well, not quite that, maybe 60, 65 years ago that these took place in my life. But I can still see Paul and hear Paul. And this is what I look back on now and say, some of this was our fault. So in watching that film, I was taking the fact that Ken is opening himself up to the world, to his neighbors.
I've had different people come up to me and say, hey, I know you were in the movie. So, and I say, oh really? Where did you see it? And I asked them if they appreciated the movie, the documentary, and they said yes. They thought it was very good. As far as how it helped me and the family, I don't think it helped me. I'm still the same. I'm still the same person.
So I learned a lot about somebody I grew up with that I had no idea. And that's important, that we know our neighbors. I learned things about myself and say, there's more to this life than what we've been doing.
But I hope it helped other people understand what we were trying to do, and that the Nipmuck people are still here.